Ron.
Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of The Seeds. I'll explain what The Seeds is and then we can all introduce ourselves. A few years ago I spent a number of months in West Africa, and I knew this group of young guys who, they were just buddies, 6 days out of the week they were just friends who would hang out and have a good time together, but one day a week on Fridays they became The Seeds. And their whole thing was that as young men, it was their kind of responsibility to help be a solution to some of the problems that were facing their country. So they would just talk about important issues and kind of what they could do about things, or even if they couldn't be a part of the solution, just to be mindful of issues that were going on. So I thought it was a cool idea. We had all talked about it, and we thought, all these years later, let's do the same thing ourselves. And just talk about issues that are facing our country and our world, and then maybe if that can, on a micro level, we could talk about how to be a part of the solution. On a macro level, maybe we could inspire other people to talk about those same issues and be kind of mindful of, our participation in our role in the world. So that's what The Seeds is. My name is Garen. I'm kind of like a gun-toting hippie. I'm a redneck, but I also love traveling, and I have a website called CitizenDiplomacy.net, and my thing is I just want to have people see each other's faces and realize that we're all basically the same, and we're wearing these "No War with Iran" shirts. Bombing hot chicks is bad policy. So that's kind of like one of my messages right now.
I'm Joey, social worker, confidence counselor, working and starting a business to help women build confidence, and yeah.
And she's my girlfriend, so if I do this,
That's true.
don't get creeped out.
Yeah, I'm one of the hot chicks who doesn't want to get bombed. So.
And I'm Matt. I previously was in the military, and I was a civilian working in the intelligence community. That's about me.
He speaks Arabic.
Yeah.
Living in Afghanistan.
Okay.
I'm Carly. I have a very basic understanding of most things that we're going to be talking about, so I'll be like the silent party, just kind of over here. But I'll internally rage for sure, maybe sometimes outwardly.
We just spent the last hour talking about the real world and side bitches, so
Yeah.
it's not like we're that intellectual.
Carly, you and I probably have to raise our hands at points to be
Hey,
able to talk because they won't let us sometimes.
Yeah.
Rude.
That's what I said. I can barely get a word in edgewise with the two of them, so I can just...
Well, just got to get out there. My name is Mike. I'm a filmmaker here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm obsessed with trees. Oh, also, I like to ride bikes.
So that's us, and
Aren't you?
our idea is that every week we'll have a different subject, and eventually we'll post that online so that if anybody is actually watching this, you could follow along and then hopefully start your own The Seeds. If you don't have any friends to talk about this kind of stuff with, you can just follow along with us, or else if you want, get your friends together and do the same thing. And every week, people hopefully around the country, around the world, can upload their own conversations on the topics that we all decide on. So it'll be kind of like an open source, citizen Congress kind of thing. So that's the lofty goal. Tonight we thought that we would talk about privacy and surveillance in light of the whole Edward Snowden thing. So I don't know, I guess just to start it off, what does everybody think? Maybe a good question would just be what role does privacy play in our world today or in our country? Or maybe just start with reactions to the Snowden thing.
We're not free. We should all be scared. That's my thought.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think that, it seems like people are being a lot more lenient to just give up their freedoms of, the cell phones being monitored. And a lot of people, on my Facebook, were why are people complaining? I have nothing to hide. And if people are just starting to just kind of bend over and just take it, and they don't think that there's ramifications for giving up your civil liberties, and so that's scary.
For sure. The Fourth Amendment, protects our, what is it, letters, effects?
Yeah, search and seizure and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, back then, the danger was, well, what if the British come into your home and, try to read all of your letters you sent with people? They couldn't even imagine, a day and age where they could pretty much track what you think. every text message, every Facebook post, everything on Google.
Where you're located by if you're phone on you.
Yeah. So it's like the most invasive level of surveillance ever. And I mentioned earlier tonight, I saw this thing on Fox News on YouTube about this analyst, some NSA analyst was a guest on one of the shows, I don't know what one, and he goes, show me one civilian that has actually been harmed by this program. And then the host goes, well, none. And the guy goes, yeah, exactly. And it's like, dude.
Well, the thing is with that is that there's a book called like 3 Felonies a Day, something like that. Like there are so many federal laws on the books right now that virtually everybody commits some type of federal crime every single day. And the thing is that as they're building these databases of us, like we can walk around and go like, yeah, I have nothing to hide. Like I'm not like committing crimes, I'm not doing these things, But the problem is that you probably are. You just don't know it. So in the case of like these giant CEOs like Verizon or Google, all these things, the government can basically grab all this information and go like, well, you're going to let us have access to all your phone records. And if the CEO says no, the government will go, okay, well, we can just go back and build a case against you because you've broken all these federal laws, and now, because we have this record, we can retroactively basically prosecute you, which then the CEO goes, oh, okay, well, here's the records to our whole company.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that, like, I have nothing to hide. The thing is that if someone wants to build a case against you to get you to do something that you don't want to do, like, they can just basically blackmail you with your history.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that, like, oh, I'm being watched all the time. The problem is that they're compiling all this data on you that they could then go back and be like, oh, well, now I have all the leverage in the world to make you do whatever I want. So you become like this pawn because I don't want certain information out, or I broke laws that I didn't even know were laws and all that stuff. It's creepy.
I was reading an article kind of about some of those laws, and it's crazy. Like one thing was somewhere, I don't remember where, but like if you have a dead lobster at a certain size,
right,
it's illegal. And
yeah.
so it's like not even if you bought it at a store, you caught it yourself on your own property, like not even you stole it, like you went to Whole Foods, you bought the lobster, and they could use that as a way that now you're in trouble and you're getting arrested. So it's like some of the stuff that you can get, caught for is just ridiculous.
You look at Julian Assange, like we're technically chasing him for surprise sex. That's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I thought surprises were a good thing. Surprise!
It's not illegal anymore.
We're having sex right now.
That's surprise for me.
Yeah, every guy watching it besides us three here.
I did come up with a sweet loophole today regarding underage sex. That like we're supposed to be like Jesus, and Jesus as part of the Trinity is God, and God impregnated a teenager against her will.
It was okay. I mean,
if you're gonna be like Jesus,
not even against her will, it was a surprise.
yeah,
Surprise!
So I'm just saying, they're just being like Jesus. Julius Assange is an excellent Christian.
Well, what you were saying too, Mike, about like building a case. Nowadays, you see people going after the opposite political parties just with that nonsense too, and it's like retribution, or I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's used in many circumstances already, so it's already hurting people. It's just the average citizen doesn't affect them every day, so they don't see it.
Well, and that's the thing that I think it would be cool for you to talk about, because part of the thing that, and I don't know all the details, but like a lot of the NSA stuff, it's not that they're listening to everything and every word or reading everything in your emails, but they compile this metadata that's basically like, okay, you fit these certain profiles, so we sort of group you into these things, and that's kind of what you were doing, right, in Afghanistan.
I was working in a group that dealt with that, but I mostly was translating. But with the metadata, they're basically collecting a phone number, where the phone number is originating from, and who it's calling, the location, the time duration, and what else, I forget what. But it's not that they're necessarily listening in on every call, but that already is illegal. Well, it's not illegal because of the FISA, but that's already taking and seizing information. And our FISA is in place to make sure that all the the seizing of data and phone calls and things like that, it's in place to make sure that it's all legal and up to snuff and all. And last year, I think there was 1,800 requests for seizures, and 1,800 were approved. There was no unapproved ones. So it's not doing its job because you know at some point somebody had to have messed up paperwork, so it shouldn't have gone through. But the courts that are in place to make sure that these sorts of things aren't unjustly happening to every American isn't happening correctly. And then you throw in that I'm pretty sure it's not what was originally intended either, to have literally say everybody that's a Verizon customer in America, we're going to seize that data.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what happens if they are recording phone calls right now. I would not be surprised, and then they're being stored for retroactive listening if they want to build a case against you, if they see you calling somebody and want to see what you're talking about. I don't know. I don't know all that information. But it wouldn't surprise me. And there's the Utah thing, that there's massive database storage. And
Can you explain that in case someone's watching and doesn't know what that is?
Just basically, they're building like the largest.
It's like $1.7 trillion or something, like whatever it was. It's ridiculous. Or numbers.
That we all just paid for.
But in Utah, there's a massive storage facility for information. Is basically what it is. They haven't come out and said what the information's for, but it's just a massive storage facility for information.
Well, but it's every phone call, every email, every text, every video conversation gets routed through this building, basically in Utah, and then stored and then encrypted and basically tagged as far as like.
So looking for certain words, in a sense?
Well, no, what Matt was
I
saying.
think it's for retroactive purposes, so they have it stored, so they can listen to the whole conversation.
Yeah.
If they want to retroactively listen to it.
I heard that it'll be like big enough and powerful enough that they can record every form of communication for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
So when your turn comes, they go back and type in Karen Etcheberry and they go, okay, well just, here's everything. We'll just run a search for, gun-toting hippie or whatever, and then, okay, we saw that,
And part of my not fully getting the whole picture of like the NSA stuff is when I was doing my job, since I knew Arabic, I was told the rules that so we're listening to phone calls outside of the U.S. because if we had any inclination that it was an American speaking, whether it was name or like things that they had, if it was a U.S. person's what it's called. So if it's anybody that's an American, whether even if they have a green card or whatever, that you can't listen to. And if you have any of that inclination, you need to stop right away unless you hear that there's imminent danger or a threat, like somebody's going to die or somebody's going to get kidnapped or something like that. So even if you just hear a name, you can't have that in your report that you're putting out. It also includes companies that are incorporated in the U.S. It includes like vessels or airplanes that are in the U.S. if they're inside like even the territory, the 12-mile water territory, things like that. We were always told, hey, get authority from somebody else, and you're probably going to have to delete it anyway. Just because it's hard to say what the initial intentions were because things have just changed so drastically in the last 10 years even. But it wasn't intended. It was to be against foreign targets, not every American citizen that is using email or phone or any of that stuff. And it's just a weird, I don't know exactly when the breaking point was, but I think, the Patriot Act obviously was just a huge step towards just screwing everybody over.
Yeah, and then with the facility in Utah, like they're now, like the NSA is like coordinating with universities in Utah, so you can actually get a degree in spying on Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Like
TSA, NSA, like VHS, like there's specific degrees now towards that stuff.
How crazy is that?
to study how to grow balls for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I had to go get a parking ticket last week, and so I went into the courthouse downtown.
For your bike?
No, this is like a ticket I had 4 years ago. I didn't even know I had it. I was like, I didn't even know I had this. Blah blah blah. So I guess they found me. And so I go to pay, and I have to I open the door, and you walk in, and it's like there's armed guards all over the place, and then you have to take your belt off, take your shoes off, empty your pockets. Like, they go through your stuff. If you have a backpack or a bag, they rifle through it. It goes through a scanner just like it does at the airport. And this is the courthouse. I'm like, I have to pay a parking ticket. Like, this is crazy. And then, so I put her keys, through the thing, and the guy holds it up, and he's like, oh, this can't be in here. And it's like this little can of pepper spray. I mean, it's tiny. And I go, you guys have guns. Like, what am I going to do with a can of pepper spray? And, they made me leave. Yeah, they made me leave the building. And I thought, two things. One, how pathetic are you as a security force if like you couldn't handle somebody who had a can of pepper spray that's worth like one shot. And two, like if you have to be that afraid of the citizenry, like that's your fault. At that point, you deserve it. Like if you're that scared that people are gonna like react violently to you, it's because you're an asshole. And I think like the best way, and we talked about this before, but like the best way to not have people want to blow you up is to not deserve it. And I feel like that's where we're at with like, you know, cops and the government and all these things. Like they're so afraid of everything because because they're horrible people. Like it's a horrible institution and it deserves whatever it gets. And it's like they're so scared of it all the time. And you're like, well, at some point you have to go, it's not us, it's you.
Yeah, quit beating up people, and then instead of stopping that, just removing cameras so people can't record it, so you can still continue to kill people or taser people. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the case that right now the federal government is preparing for like some kind of societal unrest, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, if you don't want that, then don't drive us to that point.
Yeah.
You know, just quit digging with people. And
That's that meme that I sent you, that scumbag cop meme or whatever, and it's like this picture of the smiling cop, and it's like, points a gun at you, molests you, beats you up, harasses you in public, doesn't understand why nobody likes him. Like, it's that kind of a situation. Like, well, that's why nobody likes you, because you're horrible all the time. And it's like that old, whenever I think of the government, I always think of this old proverb, and it's like, the man who beats his horse will soon be walking. And I feel like that's what's going on. Like, at some point, like, the horse that you're beating just goes, you're done, and just keeps you off. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
For sure.
That's what Brazil's going through right now, right? They're just fed up with what their government's doing.
Brazil, Turkey,
Yeah, Turkey.
I mean, like, all over the place.
Maybe I don't know, rather than talk about specifics, not that that's a bad thing, like this is a fun conversation, but like, what's like an acceptable expectation of privacy? Like if we're going to talk about if privacy is going to be kind of the theme of the conversation, like what does that even mean, or has the definition of it changed? Like maybe we just live in a world where that's a reasonable expectation, where when you go to a public building, they get to look at everything. You know, obviously I think that's horseshit, but I don't know. Like, do we just live in a different world, or do we have to change our expectations, or?
Yeah, because to play devil's advocate, people are going to say, well, because of all these things that are in place, we stop an average of 1 or 3 terrorist attacks, like in a short period of time that I've read. And so, you know, obviously,
but we can't give any details.
Can't give details because it didn't happen, but we stopped it, so we're saving you, we're protecting you. So there's going to be that side of it.
Well, maybe like since like the whole like kind of the Snowden situation is sort of driving this conversation, like maybe we should each just kind of say like, because they did a poll and like 58% of Americans think Snowden's a traitor and that he should be tried and that it's just, you know, he's a bad guy or whatever. And it's like, I'm kind of curious about what people think about him, I guess, just what he did.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would be part of the 42% then that I think that he did what he thought was right, which is people are going to say is the problem, but he saw that there was something going on that was not okay, and he chose to speak up and let the people know about it. And I think that that is what is great about America, or the theory of America, is that we are allowed to be able to have a voice and say that we're not okay with stuff. And I think it's bullshit how now he's in Hong Kong, probably hiding
in Russia on his way to
yeah.
Cuba to
Iceland. Well, I mean, if he gets to Iceland, you know, I mean, he did all these things, but it's like just because he saw that something was incorrect and then spoke out so people could have a choice of what they wanted to do about it. So this thing too is like in his video, he just said, I wanted people to be able to know and then decide what they want to do with that at that point. Like he wasn't being callous about it or anything like that. So I think that he did what he should have done and just let people know. And I think it's bullshit that now all of a sudden they want to lock him up probably indefinitely. And
best case scenario.
Best case scenario.
Yeah.
But as soon as they get his hands on him, we're never going to hear from him again. And then all of a sudden we're going to hear maybe like he was driven to suicide or something, and that will be the end.
He killed himself with his hands tied behind his back.
Right, exactly.
He was in a house full of FBI agents. He attacked them.
Yeah.
With a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my opinion.
Well, like, I kind of read up on it, mostly just like the recent things about him escaping to Hong Kong or whatever, and like admitting to what he did, and which I have like an admiration for him because he knew exactly what was happening. He was like, that's not okay, and I'm not okay with that as, you know, an American citizen. Like, I don't like that, so I'm going to let everybody else know because, you know, it's their right to know. We should know this stuff. This shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be like, oh, we collect everything that everyone's ever said to anybody for the next 100 years, and if we want to look at it, we can. That doesn't mean they're going to, because, like, what do I say that's going to be, like, red flagged, and they're going to read all through my shit?
Loss.
Yeah,
You said side
I
bitches.
guess so.
You were looking up recipes on Pinterest.
Shit.
You said you were gonna stab a snake.
Yeah, right. Oh, shit, I forgot that.
You live with Mike and I. I'm pretty sure there's like a deck of
Now I'm
cards
flagged
somewhere
because
with
you
your
guys.
faces on
I
it.
know, Carly, you and I are flagged.
Yeah.
We are boyfriends.
Damn. Well,
Because we're on watch list for sure.
yeah. So now, you know, they can read through all my stuff, which is, I mean, whatever. It's not whatever, I guess, but like everybody else, I don't have anything to hide. That's not the point. It's not about hiding things. It's about how I don't need everybody, you know, reading a bunch of shit that I say. It's not important, and it shouldn't be allowed.
You're filthy sexy to me.
Well, whatever. They can read that. I don't care. They just have boners in the NSA office. Shit, we shouldn't have read this.
Hey guys, there's a new text from Mike Richardson.
We don't want to read what he says, just what she says.
What's your 2 cents?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I put it in the hero category for sure. I think the Snowden case is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, that, like, the fact that, like, somebody doing the right thing makes them a hero. Like, that's how, like, someone goes, oh, hey, our country's, like, violating everybody's civil liberties. And we're like, oh my God, what a hero. And you're like, well, I mean, the culture that he exists in is so corrupt that, like, everybody is willing to just not say anything. And he's, like, the 1 or 2 guys that have been like, hey, this is wrong. Like, the fact that only he's by himself, basically, like, strikes me as just kind of, like, reprehensible. But then, like, the other thing is that I think he's a hero because it wasn't necessarily what he did, but just, like, that the stakes are that high.
Mm-hmm.
That we now live in a country where telling the truth is illegal. Like, we're telling the world that your country's breaking the law, that is a crime. And you're like, how in the world did we get here? Like, how do we get to this point? Like, we were talking about, like, the revolution, like they wanted to tax tea, and people freaked out and, like, basically took over a harbor. And, you know what I mean? Like, they had civil wars over these, like, over things that, like, revolve around stuff. And now we're like, oh, well, and I know what you meant, but, like, people were like, well, they're reading my stuff. I mean, whatever. 100 years ago, dude, people would have lost their shit over that. Sure. And we're just like, oh, I mean, yeah, it sucks, but whatever. So, I mean, I consider him, like, a true American hero. Like, I'm not trying to, like, shit on the military or anything like that, but I don't think anybody's fought for my freedom since World War II. And I feel like this guy has done more to fight for American freedoms than anyone in Iraq or Afghanistan. Like, because that's not, no Iranian, no Afghanistan person has ever done anything wrong with me. Like, I'm not afraid of any of them. I'm afraid of my own government. And Edward Snowden.
They are Muslims, though. You know that, right?
Well, I know. We got to kill all the brown people.
And your tax money's going.
And my tax money. But, like, I mean, I consider him, like, someone who is actively fighting for our freedoms.
Yeah,
so
sure.
For that reason alone, he's a hero with me.
Well, did he, because I kind of read, but did he admit to it after he fled to Hong Kong?
Yeah.
It didn't come out. The Guardian didn't put it out until he was in Hong Kong.
Oh.
They filmed it in Hong Kong.
Well, because at that point, he knows exactly what's going to happen. He's
Sure.
Yeah.
So then he just sacrificed himself.
Yeah, I mean, he gave up everything he knows.
And he chose to do publicly with his face. Most of the time, they just do it anonymously.
And the thing is, people are like, oh, like, well, you know, he fled to Hong Kong, which makes it look shady, blah, 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 and you're like, all this stuff. But the thing is, like, he's turned down every major, like, payout, every major interview, all these stuff, da-da-da. Like, he's not some, like, ego-obsessed asshole who just wants to make a name for himself.
Well, it's shady that he has to flee in the first place, just to be honest.
Oh, he'd have been here to...
Well,
he's going to be done anyway.
He's like, best case scenario, I spent 3 years in a hole and I lose my mind.
Yeah,
worst case scenario, they kill me.
Yeah.
Well, in the Bradley Manning stuff, there was actually nothing really that important. Whereas this is serious. Like, I don't know. To me, this is like actually showing how messed up our government's gotten. Whereas the stuff that Bradley Manning put out, it wasn't anything condemning. Like, they would actually piss off Americans, going, "Oh, wait, they're spying on us as American citizens."
Yeah, what's
I just
your
think that-
what's your reaction?
I think the percentage of people that think he's a traitor, I think that they're coming from the mindset that the government's working correctly as is. So if they have this information, nothing bad can happen with it. I think they go, oh well, this judge approved all Verizon users to get their information seized. When that alone is that's a incorrect part of the process. That shouldn't happen, because part of was the Patriot Act and the NDA and all that stuff. It's for specific targets or people or things. It's not for every American that's using Verizon.
Yeah.
So I think like even just that step of things, yes, it's legal, but it's not legal because they didn't. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a judge that's there to say yes, this is right, yes, it's not. And when he's just bending over and saying, yeah, let's do whatever for the government.
Yo, what do they have on him? They've done to him.
So the whole process is messed up. So you can't say, oh, well, it's legal and our government says we need it, so let's go, let's do it. So, I mean, I think the majority of people that think that he's a traitor and things, they aren't paying attention to actually that it's not going correctly. So, yes, it's legal, but I think they're just in the mindset that, well, our government would never do anything to hurt us. And they're not seeing the big picture of what. So, I don't know, it does bug me that not enough citizens care about their rights and their freedoms, that they just want to say, oh, well, today it doesn't affect me, so I'm fine with it. Because down the road, it's going to affect everybody in so many worse ways than even right now, which to me right now, it's appalling that it's become legal to just seize all of my metadata from a phone call. That I know it sounds like nothing to some people, but it's just such a huge injustice anyway, and it's just going to only get worse. And the people that have that information, even recently, the government, the things that they've been doing to act out against people that either speak, like, have a different mindset from them, or like today, dude, Snowden, he's getting accused for spying because he revealed that our government was spying on its own people. Like, there's just shitty irony in that. It's just so horrible to me. I don't have words. I'm so angry at like what the nonsense has become.
For sure. Yeah, I guess like a couple reactions, just like what you said. You can make the case that, you look at, like you said, how whistleblowers are being treated. You look at 4 American citizens have been killed without a trial now. So, and everybody kind of has to say, well, even if, I don't have anything to hide, like, people are being harmed by this, and the groundwork is being laid that these things could happen to me. But what you were talking about, Mike, about truth, the fact that you would have to flee the country to tell the truth, I think that people don't fully realize how we're harmed by this. Like, we had listened to something from Amber Lyon, and she was saying people don't realize that journalists in this country are terrified to speak the truth, because best case scenario, you're going to get fired. Worst case scenario, you go to jail. And we
die like Michael Hastings.
Yeah, and so we all suffer because of it. We live in a country where we don't know what the truth is. We don't get to hear the facts. We don't get to hear real discourse.
And the majority of the people just trust what they are told, which is not the truth.
Yeah, so we're all being deceived and living within a lie, and we don't even realize it. So we're all being very harmed, And then too, like we keep saying, we're against this drone program, but we're forced into a situation where our money supplies it. That's a major harm to me. It's a harm to my conscience, that I don't get a decision. In the last couple of weeks, I've talked to somebody from Gaza, somebody from West Bank, somebody from Yemen, and they all have pretty, hard to listen to stories about their experience with America. And I talk to them face to face, and I say, we're friends now, but I'm a part of the system that is forcing you to suffer, and I don't get a say in that. That's a major harm to me.
Yeah, there's for anybody who wants to, I highly recommend it. There's a book called Green is the New Red. It's by Will Potter, and he's an excellent reporter who basically got blacklisted by the FBI. What he did was he got involved with sort of these sort of environmental campaigns, and he helped a group go door to door and hand out pamphlets about a certain environmental cause that they wanted to stop, basically. Well, the government labeled them as eco-terrorists because they were handing out pamphlets about this thing, and they were considered protesters. So one day, 2 FBI agents show up at his house, basically, and say, "We know where you work. We know that your girlfriend is applying to be a Rhodes Scholar. We can take it all away. Like, it's all gonna vanish. Like, we'll make 2 phone calls, you won't have a job, and she won't get her scholarship. It's over." And so for like months, like this guy just like freaked out because like every time the phone rang, every time somebody knocked on the door, he's like, "Oh my God, the government's here to take me away." And so like his book outlines basically how the government is going after protesters, like non-violent, like these aren't people blowing things up. They're just like out trying to spread a message, basically. And like the bully tactics and all these things that go on, and it's just like what you're saying. Like you have reporters who can't tell the truth because either the publisher won't let them or they're simply afraid of what's going to happen. And like I kind of used to exist within that world, and it happens all the time. Like people would be furious about what does not get printed. It's unbelievable.
For sure. I want to give my Snowden thing too. My thoughts on that. So I guess for me, it just comes down to, okay, so Snowden releases this information, and he's a traitor, and this is espionage. And I guess the insinuation is that he's like put America in jeopardy, or maybe he's put service. I don't know who. He's put somebody in danger. And ever since 2001, we're so obsessed with terror that he's branded, he's helping the terrorists. As far as I know, this has nothing to do with terrorism. Like it's just
our government's the terrorist now.
Yeah, exactly. But that it's so crazy that this is like the McCarthyism era, right? Where you get to just stamp like the
communist.
Exactly, and that's the way the word terror has become. Like this has nothing to do with Al Qaeda, nothing to do with terrorists. But ever in this post 2001 world, anything that they put that stamp on, like they can just make it the most gravest national security issue. And for me, I don't think this is a crazy statement to make, and it's a bit facetious, but I don't think that terrorism truly exists. For me, like terrorism is a tactic. It's not a people, it's not a government, it's not a regime, it's not even a certain dudes that training on monkey bars in the mountains. It's a tactic, and as long as there's a big guy, the little guy will use terrorism to get back at him. So it always has existed and it always will exist. But we've turned it into like this noun that we want to fight it and eradicate it. And it's just crazy the extent to which we've allowed our country to be hijacked because of it. And this would be an interesting question for you, Carly. I understand to a certain point, like how old were we when 9/11 happened? We were 17 or
for that.
Yeah.
16,
we were sophomores,
16,
right?
Yeah. 16 for me.
Okay. Because it was
I was 18, so you were 16.
yeah, so I guess that was sophomore year, huh? So
I graduated. You just started junior.
It's 2001. You subtract 12 years from now.
oh, okay. the point is
7.
the point is though,
I
like
was 7.
I was a high school guy, I remember all of us, we were so fired up, like we talked about joining the military, kicking ass and stuff. And so I understand people got swept up in it, but I feel like I've since kind of calmed down and seen things for what it really is.
Yeah.
I guess I would just be interested to know, like, you were younger than that, like you don't remember getting swept up in the fervor. Like, do you still, like, people your age, is the whole like war on terror thing, is that really on the front of people's minds, or?
Like, I guess with the people I hang out with, besides you guys now, but we never really talked about it. Like, I was 7 when it happened, so,
You're such a pervert.
I was 7, I was in class when they told me. Well, I guess I was 8, huh, because it was in September.
Oh, that's okay.
8, yeah. Boom. But, yeah, I was in class when it happened, and we got told, and, like, they turned on the TV and watched it for a while, but I didn't fully understand what that even meant. Like, I didn't know. I knew that people were being hurt, but I didn't know, like, what or how to even understand that. So, and then I knew that we were at war with Iraq, and that's basically all I knew. And no one ever really talked about it with me after that. So it never was really, like, anything that I focused on, or, like, even in high school when we had our, current events class or whatever, and there were bigger things going on, so no one ever talked about it. But, for something that's still going on to this day, I still have a very, like, small understanding of it. But then I've watched, the conspiracy videos, and so I'm, convinced that maybe it's not all there. Maybe we don't know it all. So.
But did you, after that happened, were you like, oh man, I'm afraid of being attacked?
No. I went outside and played like I normally do. I never just, like, saw a plane and was like, oh, I wonder if that's going to attack me, or I wonder if that's going to drop another, I wonder if that's going to drop a bomb, or I wonder if it's going to go into a building, kill a bunch of more people. Well, no. I never thought that.
That's one thing I think our government's great at, is throwing the fear of terrorism at its people, so then it can throw these things that it needs to do to keep you from getting hurt.
Yeah.
Such as getting your emails and phone calls and all that stuff. Because I'm not so scared of terror every day that I think that I need to give up my phone calls. And nothing important is being said in it, but I still don't want to give them up just because it's throwing a title out there to stop something that they're not actually trying to stop. It's just trying to get that power over its people.
Yeah. Because if we don't, like, Garen, you said you don't even think that, terrorism exists. If you don't think that exists, so they're tapping into your phones and your computer and stuff like that, and if they need to, they're going to, to stop terrorism. Well, what about those people who don't think it's, the Muslims that are being terrorists? What if it's, I don't have anything to hide, but I think it's too much, because it's none of your business what I'm talking to my mom about on the phone, or my grandma or something.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I was in Montana when 2001 happened, and like the next year I was in Portland, and I remember they came up with that whole like scale of terror, like it's now orange or red or all that stuff, and I remember that being downtown, and whenever the terror level went up, they would dispatch F-15s from Portland International Airport. And so like F-15s and Blackhawks would start.
The Air Guard
the Air Guard would launch. And seeing F-15s like circle your city, I mean, I was like, oh my God, like, is something gonna happen? Like, it just creates a sense of fear, and that grips you, and it becomes this thing where you're like, I don't care what we have to do as long as that stops. And you buy into it, you know what I mean? And so it's one of those things, but then as the years go by, you're like, hey, wait a minute. Because I used to be like, my country 'tis of thee, rah, 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 America, put a boot up everybody's ass, blah, blah, all that stuff. And then, like, as I stopped to actually, like, use my brain, I was like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. And then you look at the fact that more people have died from furniture in the last 10 years than from terrorism. And you're like, why are we spending trillions of dollars and giving up all our civil rights for something that really isn't that big of a concern?
Like what you were saying with the F-15s, Boston, just recently with the bombings, you have guys showing up at your door armed with armored vehicles behind them, and there's snipers pointing at you, and they knock on your door and ask if you can search, or if they can search your house.
Right.
How likely are you to say no?
When you see a tank outside.
Right.
So are you going to shoot me? Or is that how that works?
And just the willingness that it seemed like that city was willing to go through to stop one person that was on the loose. It saddened me to see, honestly, just how much people were willing to give up because they were so scared of one guy.
And in spite of all the cameras and in spite of all the security, that bomb still went off. And in spite of all the cameras and all that door-to-door shit and all the tanks, it was a citizen who turned him in. Like, the whole system failed. Like, it didn't prevent anything, and then it didn't come up with a solution afterwards.
The
like,
FBI even questioned them beforehand, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because they had intel from Russia that the Russian government said, hey, check this guy out.
Right.
They checked him out, and I mean, you can't always stop everything. As sad as that is to say, because even, I don't know if they had their best attempts on this time, but it just, if it was, our money's getting wasted, and if it wasn't their best attempt, our money's getting wasted. Either way, it's just sickening.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think your question though was a good one. What is our expectation of privacy in 2013?
Mm-hmm.
Like with Facebook and Twitter and Google Glass, and we're doing this. You know what I mean? Like, what is the expectation of privacy?
Yeah, and those are all good points. Like, I get super mad about all this privacy stuff. I mean, I think privacy is, I mean, that should be like on the list of the natural rights of man. You know, there's something that you keep for yourself, or you get to decide to what level. So when it comes to this government stuff, I get freaked out. But then on Facebook, I put all kinds
You
of
still tweet and you still send Facebook posts.
Yeah, and I record my conversations and put it online. So I don't know. I mean, it is kind of interesting and
how the social media affects privacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think with me, like, because I'm doing this recording, like, it's going to be put online. I don't have any problem with that because people are going to see it, and there's no doubt about that. But when I'm not using this, recording system, or I'm not using my cell phone or anything like that, and they can tap into it and listen to what I'm saying, that's when I have a problem. If I wanted you to know what I said, I'd put it online. I don't have any problem with what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to be tapping into this, because anything I have to say, I can say openly. And I don't know, it makes me so mad because it just seems like really unnecessary.
I wonder if things like Twitter and Facebook and all the social media sites, I wonder if that has made people lose their own sense of privacy because they put, hey, I'm having this for dinner, take a picture of it, put it online.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's part of the just losing your own sense of privacy, because you feel like everybody has to know what you're doing anyway.
Well, I think there's a part of,
True.
even with our society right now, with like reality TV, this whole push that, we all have something unique that we want to sell, and we want to self-publicize ourselves to then end up making money from it and look at us. And so, social media is a way that you can do that on a very small scale to try to become this local celebrity and look at us. And I think our society right now is, very self-absorbed. And so, bad part of that, though, is that we are giving up our rights because we continue to put ourselves out there, and we think that it's okay, kind of like what you're saying. Like, I agree that I think that because we're putting ourselves out there, we want to be known and feel like we have a purpose, that when they start saying, well, we're going to start getting your stuff, you're just like, well, I don't have anything to hide. I mean, I showed you that I had chicken for dinner, and I think it's a huge correlation.
Yeah, but I think that like the whole social media thing and all that stuff in reality TV, I think people have a fundamental desire to be known.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want other people to know who they are, because everybody has a story to tell. Like everybody's like, this is who I am, and I want people to know. The problem is that we're kind of narcissistic assholes, so we're all shouting at each other without actually paying attention to anybody else. We're just like, this is me, this is me, this is me, this is me, and like I don't ever ask who are you, that kind of stuff. But the thing is that when it comes to Facebook and Twitter and that kind of stuff, I'm choosing to reveal that information. I'm not being forced to reveal it. And the thing is that like when I put stuff on Facebook, I still have an expectation of privacy, because there are 470 people that I've said you are allowed to see this information. Like that's way different than, oh, I put it online, therefore the government has a right to store it. Like, no, I never agreed to that under any circumstances. Like, if I want to make fun of Christians or post what I had for dinner or whatever, like, that's still my information. And just because I put it on a public website doesn't mean that the government gets to store it. Like, that is against my will. It is a violation of my privacy, and it's not okay. Like, my expectation of privacy is still really, really high. And I'm on all kinds of stuff. Like, I put all kinds of information out all the time. Like, I just do, because I enjoy it. It's fun. But I have a very strict, I demand my privacy. Like, it's not something I think that I just give up because I'm on Facebook. Like, that to me is such a bullshit argument. It doesn't hold water at all.
For me, I think it kind of comes down to, like, I'm a pretty, I don't know what the proper characteristic is, like, confident or outgoing or whatever. Like, if anybody, even though I didn't know you, but if you wanted to know fairly intimate things about, maybe not like, personal level, but like what I think or believe, I'm all about ideas. Like, I'll tell you anything. I'll tell you about how I hate the government. That's fine. But for me, it's like not accountability, but just like we said, the government has now shown that they will kill American citizens for, without any due process whatsoever. So the fact that I could be held accountable to that extent, the fact that some guy in the NSA could watch this video and go, wow, you just told the internet that you hate the government. We know that you have guns and whatever. You now fit this terror profile, and you're going to either be, blackmailed or we're going to kill you with a drone or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, it's not even just the information. Like, to some level, I'm willing to probably disclose more than the average person to who I don't know. But the fact that we now live in a country where that could be used, to manipulate, deceive, punish, kill, that's crazy to me.
What's messed up is you don't hate government, you hate the current version of the U.S. government. It's not like you're just like, we just anarchy, we need nothing.
That sounds good.
I like that.
I'm an anarchist. I mean, that makes me paranoid to say that out loud because, like, I know that's a big thing, but like, I'm absolutely anti-state. Like, I hate our government and pretty much any form of it, but like our government especially, it's a nightmare. It's just
their ability to use information that makes them feel threatened and then turn around on you.
That might be a good conversation for next week. How when people hear the word anarchy, they think of, the big A with the circle around it. And
music. And
exactly. But we've talked about this a lot, but I just, government to me is the science of how we organize ourselves so that we get along as reasonably harmoniously as possible. And I think that we're just at an age where that's technologically the system that we've designed to accomplish that is kind of outdated. And, we might see a just dramatic reorganization of that where we go back to like a tribal kind of thing, or maybe we're still America, but, just the way that we govern ourselves is a lot different. So I would be an anarchist in that sense. So like, I think we're going to see a completely shaking up of, how we define those things. But it's not, I don't believe flipping over cars, lighting things on fire.
Yeah, we don't have to get into the whole anarchy thing now, but like the thing with the anarchy is that it's not that it's anti-authority, it's anti-coercion. And when we look at the government, it's like, okay, if I disagree with us killing brown people overseas just because, like, I don't have any choice in that matter. Like, I have to pay my taxes that support that. And if I don't, they're going to throw me in jail. They're going to rob me of everything about my humanity. And that's violent coercion in support of something that I don't agree with. And so, like, when it comes to anarchy and the anti-state, that kind of stuff, it's not like running around and burning cars and that kind of thing. It's like, look, people should be interact without government mediation. Like, I should be able to interact with people without having to go through the government. Like, right now, we're not allowed to deal with Iranians. We're not allowed to deal with Cubans. Like, these kinds of things because our government says so. And it's like, why can't I interact with whoever the hell I want to interact with as a human being? That's a fundamental right of mine. And so, like, it's really just taking away the coercive, violent aspect of you will be a part of this, whether you want to or not. And if you don't want to, we're going to ruin everything about your life.
Yeah.
So, but I think that brings up a good question, though. Is that like, because every time we did say we've talked about this every time, but like
we talk a lot.
We talk a lot, but like, why is the government so hell bent on doing these things? I think like there has to be a reason, and it's not to stop terrorism, and it's not to keep us safe. Like, why is the government doing this, even though it knows that
it's
generally
wrong.
everybody's against it? Yeah, it knows it's wrong. It knows that the people are against it, but why is it still so hell bent on doing it?
I have answers. Do you want anyone else?
What do you go?
I don't know. I just kind of think like I love history. I'm kind of a history nerd, and I feel like the story of human history is power, money, control, deceit. The example I always use is Otto von Bismarck. He was the father of modern-day Germany. Germany didn't exist until the 1860s, I believe. And so before that, it was like Austria-Hungary, Prussia, and he had this idea for Germany. He intercepted this letter from the French ambassador, rewrote it, issued it to the public, and then he just, manipulated this conflict. they go to war with each other, and then that was kind of this coalescing impulse that was the birth of Germany. So here you have an example of one man, one dude who was so powerful that he could manipulate, global geopolitics to bring about his dream. And you can't tell me that that doesn't exist today.
We'll go with Tonkin.
Yeah, and that's another thing I always say too, is that every major conflict that happened over at least the past 100 years, and probably more if I would study it, there's been questions around it. The USS Maine, USS Lusitania, Pearl Harbor, Gulf of Tonkin, 9/11. So we know that there's still people that are the power that's that concentrated on such a huge level, names that we don't know, that for them it's not about money, it's not about governing, it's about power, it's about control. So like I said before, I think that they kind of see that we're at kind of this fulcrum in history where the individuals are empowered. Look at what the role that Twitter played in the Arab Spring.
Mm-hmm.
They see these things and they're like, man, if we're going to maintain the status quo that gives us our power, we need to just crack down on this, because we don't want to see the radical empowerment of the individual. We want to stay on top.
Yeah.
So they have it's just like every other war and moment in history. It's about power and control and money. So that's what this is too.
Yeah, I think we have this sort of chronological naivete, or whatever you want to call it, that it's we have a civilized record of 10,000 years that shows people in power are assholes. They will manipulate stuff. They will lie to the public. They will do this over and over and over and over again. And somehow we're like, oh, but they don't do that today. And you're like, I mean, come on. How fucking dumb do you have to be like, oh, well, yeah, that used to happen constantly for forever, but now it doesn't. You know what I mean? Now you can trust the government. Oh, now it's acting as this benevolent entity. Oh, now it's these kinds of things. And I think that, like we talked about before, technology has given people the ability to connect with whoever they want, globally. We can share an idea, and someone could be watching this right now in Cambodia or wherever, you know what I mean? And ideas can spread literally in seconds now, rather than months or years, all those kinds of things. But I also think that, part of the reason that things are happening is that, yes, I do feel like humanity is reaching this point where we're realizing that we've outgrown government. We've outgrown these people who are our leaders, right? That all these kinds of things. And I don't know, obviously those in power don't react well to that. But I think that that's something that's been, for forever. People basically just in power, and they want more, and they want more, and they want more. And the people who are kind of down below go I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it, boom. And they kind of throw it off, and then it just restarts the cycle again. And so in some ways, technology is playing a role, and we're connected, and we are, as human beings, just outgrowing this sort of outdated business model that just doesn't work for us anymore. But it's also a natural progression of government. It's a natural thing that governments want more than they should. It's a natural thing for capitalism to make rich people super rich and poor people super poor. That's just the cycle of it. And it's been like that for forever. And I think we're kind of entering that period of history again but I do think that we have now an opportunity that people have never had before, because we can connect with so many people now that we can share these ideas massively. They don't happen regionally anymore. Everything's global now. And so it's wow, we can outgrow government as a globe. We can say no to this stuff as a globe. It's not just some tribe overthrowing a chief. It is an entire population overthrowing government as we know it.
And not just can, but have to.
You have to.
I feel all these subjects, it's a global thing. There's a global war for freedom right now. Mm-hmm. And the only way that we achieve it is not the Americans and the Turkish and the Syrians or whatever, mm-hmm. Almost any country in the globe, but all of us, we have to say, look, this is people versus tyranny. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, kind of connected with Micah's sayings about technology is I'm sure everyone here, has heard about Anonymous. What are the stuff that they're doing just through technology? And I know that some of the stuff that they've hacked into and stuff is not legal and things like that, but they've found ways that, rape victims have had their rights being able to have a voice for things. And so, it's getting to a point where we are able to create a new level of check and balances with the people through YouTube videos. If you see cops doing things wrong, people, you know, can put them on their cell phones, they record them, they put them up there. And I think that that's something that's allowed and we should be able to do and not be ridiculed for it. And yeah.
Well, we're talking about like change of what government is and just the ability to connect to people. It just makes me curious to see what's going to happen as far as like representatives go that we send to Washington, D.C., because they seem to be just pay attention to the dollar and making money and not paying attention to what their constituents that voted them in. They just don't care. But we have the ability to directly connect with our government just through email even or things like that. The system just seems so kind of goofed up right now that just being able to directly connect with folks should make things better, but it just still seems to be getting ignored. So it'd be interesting to see what the progression of that is and how we, in the future, each will feel like part of our government because we actually will feel like we have a say in things like that, whereas now I know a lot of people don't. It'd just be interesting to see, too.
We should just get an email that says, do you want gay people to marry? Yes or no? And you click on it, boom, problem solved.
Yeah.
Do you want to smoke weed? You know? Yes or no?
Well, what there are people like me that don't want to smoke it but don't care if it's legal. So
Yeah, true.
you gotta change the wording.
Yeah. I don't, you know. I
Then
don't
you have
do drugs. I
another,
think
please
everybody-
specify.
Well, I think like the thing that excites me is because it's like super easy to be pessimistic about all this stuff. But the thing that excites me is that we now have the ability, and I think in large part, like as much as technology has caused a lot of the problems that we're dealing with, like without technology, there are no drones. You know what I mean? Like technology causes a ton of problems, but at the same time, we can use it now that we could enact change overnight without violence, and that excites me.
That's the perfect way.
Like, what if 75 million Americans woke up tomorrow and said no? Like, what if 80% of the troops overseas woke up tomorrow and said, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Send me home. Like, I'm done with it. Like, you know, I mean, I know that they're just following orders and everything, those things, but at some point you have to stop and go, like, I'm part of the problem too. You know what I mean? And so am I. Like, I don't excuse myself for any of this. Like, I am as much part of the problem as anybody else. Like, I'm trying not to be, and that's the thing. But, I mean, I think that we could literally have revolution overnight if enough people just said, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done giving these people my money to go blow up people that don't deserve it. I'm done giving away my autonomy to these horrible people. I'm done letting cops just run roughshod over people. Like, I'm done with it. We're not doing it anymore. And you don't have to be violent about it. If enough people go, no, like, one of the things that I love is that picture from the Turkey protests. And it's like this aerial view, and you have like thousands of people marching down the street and this little band of cops. And someone made some caption that says, like, at some point you have to say that you're on the wrong side. Like, the wave of people that could rise up non-violently and just go, you are done. Get the fuck out. Like, they have no choice. Like, there aren't enough cops. There aren't enough troops. There aren't enough anything in the whole world to stop 200 million people from going, we're done.
Yeah.
You're out.
It's getting the word out there and letting people kind of open up their eyes to what you see is going on and let them decide for themselves, hey, I want to still be part of what's going on, or hey, this isn't working, let's try something that can be better for everybody. So it's just getting the word out there. And
well, hopefully this is a way to do that, where we can start connecting with people, and hopefully someone besides us five watch this video and can actually go, I believe in what some of the things you're saying, or I believe in part of it or none of it or whatever, but then they can start being involved in the conversation and starting to say no.
For me, I love the subject of like, you know, optimism and hope in the future, because I bitch so much. I feel bad. Like, I don't ever want to sound negative. I think some of it I do, but for me, you should shake your head.
Yeah.
For me, I think
sometimes you do.
I know.
And you apologize for it.
I know I do, and I don't, like I said, I don't try to focus on that stuff, but that's why I do like talking about the positive stuff, because I really am, you know, I think that I'm amazingly positive for the future. For me,
I'm shaking my head about that.
I'm so positive. I would click on the no thing for the gay stuff.
you don't even know.
We're dating, remember?
Oh my God.
Don't forget that. Don't forget that little detail.
Not
But-
as beard, I promise.
For me, I feel like technology just allows the human nature underneath to shine through to the degree to which the technology enables, you know. So now our technology is more powerful than ever, so you're seeing that magnified even more. Yeah, there are some humans that are major assholes, so, which is why we're seeing some of this PRISM stuff. But people also have the capacity for just amazingly good things. And that's what my website, Citizen Diplomacy, is all about. And we just got back from Colombia and from Chile, and it was so cool. I mean, there were times where we were in a little pharmacy. We couldn't buy toothpaste and razors because we didn't speak the language. And this girl was just so animated and friendly. And even though we couldn't speak verbally, you just got the goodwill. You know, she just had nothing but
kindness.
Yeah, exactly.
Language of kindness.
Kindness and goodwill, and it was the same thing for us. So here's this very human moment, and I think that that's the really what humanity has to offer, and I believe in that so much that is inside 99.9% of people. And unfortunately, there's a tiny minority that is negative and is destructive and manipulative, and their voices are the loudest right now. But the other 99%, the people like that girl in the pharmacy and us, we have to make our voice louder and finally start speaking up. Like you said, that's what this is all about. And when that voice is louder than the other voice, then it'll be this, like you're saying, like this revolution. And it's not just a revolution politically, but it's like a revolution of humanity. And we all have that capacity inside of us, but people don't necessarily tap into it all the time. But I think that we need to get to a level where we just realize, like with us from Colombia, or like Iranians, we're all the same. Like, we might be born on different sides of arbitrary lines on the map, but we have a very human connection. And when people finally start to realize that, and they realize that A, we're all the same, and B, we have this capacity for goodwill and kindness and for connection and all that, it'll be kind of like a human renaissance. And then it won't be just a political revolution, but just the way that we live will entirely change. I feel like such a hippie.
Talking to, like you do, you just face to face talking to people and realizing, wow, our actions as a government, this is the person it's affecting. Sanctions, like it's not only bad people, like you're affecting a family with medicines and things like that they can't get just because our government decided that they're going to be a possible threat in the future. It's just kind of a funny thing to think about when it comes down to there's people behind both governments, and you're just an everyday guy, they're an everyday person. You just gotta, once you make that connection, it's a lot harder to have that. It's easier to have that human, like, good moment instead of that just inhumane, I don't care about you. Because when you're looking and seeing who's being affected directly, it helps. So that's a great thing about, like, technology too. That's a positive thing that it can do.
Yeah, I love the like, obviously you have to admit that things are bad. Like, you kind of have to start out there, like, okay, something's wrong for sure.
You have to people realize that, which is part of it.
Yeah, but I don't know who said it, but like, I love this. I love the quote. And it says, "No one ever built a statue to a pessimist." Like, you can't stop there. Like, you can't just go like everything's screwed. The end. Like, you have to find it. Like, we have to find it within ourselves to, like.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, we have to find it within ourselves to do something. We have to find it in ourselves to be like, no, like, the potential for good is so great. And when you interact with people, you see it. And like, so many people are just stuck in their routine of they go to the same place every day, they do the same thing they hate every day, they're around people that they don't like every day, they go home and they turn on TV and see just people being assholes every day. You know what I mean? They just get caught in this, and their worldview gets twisted into like, well, everyone sucks, and so screw it, like screw the whole thing. And it's like, I mean, I've done some traveling too, and it's like when you're out and about and just like the ability to interact with people that you don't know, and just like the kindness that you run into, and you just see these things that are heartbreakingly beautiful all the time, and you're like, man, there's nothing wrong with the world. It's just a few people running it. That's what's wrong with the world. And it's like, if you can get past that, man, there's so much awesome stuff out there to do and to see and to like go like, man, you know, those people aren't a threat. They're not a threat. Like, they're pissed off because we bombed their wedding. Like, that's why they're mad. And they don't hate us. Like, you know, when you went to Iran, or when like I've talked to people from other countries and stuff, they go, oh no, we love America. And I'm like, how can you say that? Like, we're ravaging your country right now. And they're like, oh, well, that's Obama. That's your government. Like, we don't hate you guys. Like they can make that distinction, but we don't. We're just like, oh, well, somebody that was brown supposedly flew into one of our buildings, so let's just bomb the whole Middle East. Like we don't make those distinctions, and it like you just have to stop and find some way to recognize that life is beautiful and just cling to it. You just have to cling to it and then just start to do something.
I think that part of like what you're talking about too is when people get negative, they started not trusting each other, and then we became fearful of everyone because we thought everyone was an asshole because that's all your worldview is. And so we lost a sense of community, and we didn't give a shit about taking care of each other. And I think that if we can find, that piece of, oh, there is good, and people, there are great people, there's just some people that suck, and you can actually start seeing that again, that we can start also creating this community where we actually give a shit about one another, and you actually care, and that people are doing okay, and that people are, thriving, or that they're getting their rights and their needs met. And then we start taking care of one another, not just in this country, but all over the world where there's people that are being suppressed and not being able to get to their basic needs. That is bullshit. But, and that's a way where technology can be used, because when people start to realize, there's a lot of people our age that don't vote because they say it's bullshit, there's no reason behind it, it gets no, Mike, you said you don't vote.
Yeah.
And so, there's no purpose in it. But if we started using our Facebook posts and our Twitter posts and our emails and our videos as votes, and started all coming together and saying, no, and using technology in a way that's way more powerful. And it's in the same way if you're telling someone we wait for dinner, if people start realizing that, like, oh, light bulb moment, I have power in my words in these ways that we can change the world, and very quickly.
Yeah.
I think, so I've been thinking that maybe the way that we should end it, not that we need to right now, but when we do, maybe talk about, solutions. Maybe we already have talked about solutions, but just so that we can, in terms of the privacy issue, like, where do we want it to be? What's the ideal situation, and what can we do to help them get us there? So I don't know if we're ready to talk about that yet, if we have anything else about privacy to talk about, but I don't know what you think about that.
At some point we should focus on solutions.
Yeah, so we do end on a positive note. Is there anything else we need to talk about privacy, about what privacy should look like, or?
Something that I think that, we've had conversations about is that, I think there's kind of like this curtain and the great and powerful Oz, and that it totally sounds conspiracy, but I think, Republicans or Democrats, it doesn't really matter. They're all the same of just bullshit things that are going on, but what's behind them? Like, I think there is a, 1%, 0.5% of individuals making lots of money in this country that are 5 to 7 to 10 people, whatever, or companies that are controlling the government. And so it's like, how are we going to get beyond even just, we impeach a president, we get someone new in, and they just become the next puppy. So how are we going to get people to realize that, and that there's a bigger elephant in the room here that people don't even realize that is a problem? That's my theory, though. But so.
Yeah, I agree. Just like I said before, there's the people that are on that level, like Otto von Bismarck, where they're playing for all the marbles. And people look at Obama versus Bush, and it's like they're supposedly different ends of the spectrum, and the result is the exact same. And it's like it's not like every 4 years. There's people that have so much money and so much power that has lasted for generations, this generational wealth. They're not going to let every 4 years dramatically change the course of things. For them, they're like, they could care less who gets elected. So I agree with you. That's the level. So, but maybe about the privacy issue, like.
I guess I had nothing to do with privacy.
No,
Let's yeah, but like you said, like I don't vote, I don't sign petitions, I don't do any of those things because I believe in making a difference. I don't believe in sending someone else to make a difference on your behalf, and that's why I don't vote, because it's entirely useless. Like, I don't think that I should have to tell someone else, hey, could you protect the environment? Hey, could you let gay people get married? Hey, could you not criminalize weed? That kind of stuff. It's like, I don't think that should be on somebody else. Like, we have this constant passing of the buck where it's like, oh, well, I did my part, I voted, but I still drive my Humvee you know, and I still do this stuff, but it's like, I don't mean to pick on cars. I just travel by bike most of the time, so that's kind of my thing. But it's like, because I've just kind of attached myself to that sort of thing. It's like, if I disagree with supporting the oil industry that just wrecks environments, kills people, and just like causes all kinds of bad situations all over the globe, like, stop driving your fucking car. Don't ask me to sign a petition against the Keystone Pipeline and then you go drive home. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, at some point you have to put your money where your mouth is. And so that's why I don't vote, and that's why I don't do those things. And like, I'll just jump right into the solutions type of thing. But like, for me, that is the solution. Like, we can't vote our way out of these problems anymore. It's never going to happen. That ship has sailed a long time ago. Like, it's over. Like, the idea that we have a representational government, or that we have a say, or that we can make change to the ballot box is such nonsense. I mean, it's so ridiculous that, like, we're literally, it's 2013 and people are begging for the civil right to get married. And we're letting judges decide if that's okay. Like, we're letting people, like, you know what I mean? We're like, women, like, oh my God, like, what if Mitt Romney had been, you know what I mean? Like, all these things. And you're like, women are begging for the right to say, I don't want to have kids, and they have to vote on, you know what I mean? Like, just crazy shit. That ship's over. It's over. Like, the idea of like that stuff to me is just ridiculous. I also don't think that incremental change is really the way to go either. Like, the system is so big now that, like, if we try to like build these pockets of communities, I mean, I feel like there's just not enough time for that. Like, for me, the answer to almost any of our problems right now, and like the one of privacy and that kind of stuff, is just going to be a radical change in the way that people live their lives. And it's not going to include the government.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point. Like, there's not like a solution to the privacy issue. It's just like a fundamental, like, a life solution.
Right, because what do you do? Like, you literally have to abandon money, the internet. You'd have to completely remove yourself from the grid and go live in a cave.
Joe Rogan podcast. Here.
Yeah, goodbye. I mean, like, literally goodbye to everything you know.
That's the first thing that you know.
Yeah.
Tear.
Yeah, and in pirated MMA fights.
Well, shit, what now?
Nothing to do.
Yeah.
What are we going to have to
But I mean,
get up
like,
next?
but realistically, what is there to do?
So I have two very self-serving responses to that.
Okay.
One, I think that we can't expect more from and this is the same thing that you were saying. We can't expect more from our government and from our country and from our world until we expect more from ourselves. And I mean, I fit into this category up until like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something. There's so many people in this country that they work at jobs they hate, or they just don't see a real purpose to life. You know, there's a lot of years where I'm like, I thought life was kind of meaningless, you know? And people don't have a mission that compels them. And that's fine if you don't. Like, that's a part of, you know, growing as a person. But you need to aspire towards that, you know? And I think a big solution is people just saying, look, I have a purpose in life. I was put here for a reason. I have things that I'm working to accomplish. I have an idea of the impact that I want to leave on the world. And I hope that doesn't sound pompous or anything, but I think that people should be at that kind of a point, you know, where you're putting more into the world than what you're taking out. So I made a website called Epic Life Mission that doesn't have a lot of stuff on it right now, but there was a cool interview with Bruce Buffer. But that would be a start, like, you know, having a purpose in your own life, you know, and putting positivity out there. And then, once again, this is very self-serving, but like I said, I just think a lot of these things are global. These are global issues, and there's a lot of people that, on some level, they have bought into this whole terrorism thing. And I talked to a guy, the hot dog guy down there, the corner. He was. We're talking about Iran.
Is he like a different race or something? Or what?
No, he has a hot dog stand. He sells hot dogs.
Okay.
I was so mean to him one day. I felt really bad.
What's that?
He was like, I was like walking by, and he's like, hot dog? I'm like, no, those are disgusting.
Just outwardly rude because he offered you a hot dog.
Like, no, leave me alone. Those are gross. Yeah, anyway.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Iran, and he goes, Well, because we started talking about, like, you know, all the DHS MRAPs and the machine guns and all this kind of stuff. So we're like politically on the same page.
Yeah.
And then I brought up Iran, and that was too far for him. He goes, "Whoa, well, what do you think about the 12th Imam?" Because, and I don't know Islam that well, but that's kind of like their prophet who's going to come back at the end of days. He's like a kid. He's like 7 years old or something. And I'm like, well, what about their imam? Like, you're a Christian, right? So you don't think that it's going to happen. So why would you base your foreign policy on somebody else's
religion you don't believe in?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And then I'm like, even if it does, their guy's 7, our guy's 33. Our guy's going to whip his ass.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to base Why are we going to make our foreign policy based on speculation, you know?
All different opinions here.
So my whole thing is just, there's a lot of people that are like that are, to some level, they've bought into this us versus them thing. So self-serving thing number 2 would be to, you know, on my website, CitizenDiplomacy.net, just learn about how we all...
My album's dropping Tuesday.
Yeah.
Come check out my show.
Yeah. But I don't know how I would do it, but if you want to talk to somebody yourself, you know, from a different country to have a personal experience, then send me an email there, Garen@CitizenDiplomacy.net, and I can...
No, you're good.
Connect you with some
Mine
foreigners.
is making me laugh
Okay.
because you say, no, I think it's clear what you're doing. You should.
No, I agree. It's a
I'm
cool
not-
site. I checked it out. It's rad.
I'm not trying to add butthurt right now either. I know I'm probably calling it such a But seriously, like, if you want to talk to some dude from Gaza or whatever, I don't know how I would do it yet, but, you know, maybe I could facilitate other conversations, you know? So
Yeah.
if you've never talked to somebody from whatever country it is, you know, I'll try to use my network to hook you up with somebody. So those would be 2 things. I'll stop pouting now.
I think kind of what Mike was saying earlier about privacy is it's really privacy is what you want it to be. So if you want to give out all your information about everything, you're more than welcome to. That's your choice. But if there's things you don't want to send to like the government or your grandma or something, like it's your right to have that be private. Like if you want to send a dirty joke to your buddy and not your grandma, it's your right. That's privacy. What I feel is it's what you decide it to be. And I think the change also, kind of like Mike was saying, is the change of being able to keep that privacy is, or the goal of being able to keep that privacy is, there needs to be a radical change with the people that are trying to take that away from you, more or less. If they don't have power to infringe and encroach upon your privacy, then they're just some guys in the street. You know what I mean? So it's just the people that actually have issue with with your privacy getting invaded. It's just enough people thinking the same thing and just more or less not uprising, but just not letting it happen is the key.
Yeah, like I don't mean to keep regarding the conversation here, but like I think one of the fundamental shifts that needs to happen for everybody is to stop thinking the government grants you anything. The government doesn't grant you your rights. The only thing the government can do is take them away. You are a human being. You exist.
The government doesn't exist without us.
Right. You were born on this planet, and no one has the right to take that away from you, and no one has the right to grant you them either. Like the rights that you have are the rights that you demand. And I don't think that like we can go, oh well, I have the freedom of speech because the United States government tells me I do. No, screw that. I have the freedom of speech. The only thing the government can do is imprison me for that or take it away. There's no such thing as the government granting you your fundamental rights as a human being. All they do is infringe on it. That's it. The government infringes on rights. It doesn't grant shit. And I hear so many people go like, well, like, you know, the government gives you these rights. The government gives you – no, it doesn't. It doesn't. The only thing it did was encode what naturally exists in the world. If there was no government, we'd be able to say things that we wanted to. If there was no government, we'd be able to run our businesses. If there was no government, we could interact with people however we wanted to. If there was no government, that doesn't give me the right to go kill people. Like, this idea that the government, like, gives us, like, these rights to me is just reprehensible. Like, it's such a – it's an assault on humanity to me when I hear people say that kind of stuff. And I think that's a change that needs to happen, is that we can't look at the government and go like, oh, I have my rights because the government exists or because there are men in uniform willing to kill brown people. That does not give me constitutional rights, not whatsoever. And like, man, if we could make that shift, I think it'd be so huge. Like, I have those rights because I exist.
Yeah, how cool would it be? Like the other day, I was reading in the, we have the Bill of Rights, but in the French, I don't know if you call it Constitution or whatever.
I think it's late Constitution.
Les Constitutions.
Which was then abandoned. I'm sorry.
I don't know how it works because when the revolution happened in the 1790s or whatever it was, they established the republic, but we're on like the 5th republic now, so I don't know how all this works.
It's an amazing document,
though. But yeah, the point is, the first time with the revolution, they wrote the natural rights of man.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
It's so cool.
And it's the same kind of stuff that's down the list. And just like you said, for us, we wrote the Bill of Rights for rich landowning white people. For them, it was like, if you're a human, you can say what you want.
Yeah.
You can hang out with who you want. You can worship whoever you want. You can, you're free to pursue like actual property too. You can be a success and you can spread ideas the way that you want. It's really cool. And for them, it was for all colors, all genders, everybody. Like you said, for being a human. But how cool would it be, like, instead of us being so proud of our Constitution and then other people have different ones, what if every just human on the planet, like the way that we know the Constitution, knew the natural rights of man?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, yeah, our constitutions have a little bit different things in them, but as humans, you and me, like you're talking to somebody else, I'm talking to some dude from Yemen, and even though I don't know anything about you as a Yemenese, I know as a human that you're somebody who also has these rights and this capacity, and that'd be kind of cool.
And then anybody that wants to tell you otherwise is literally assaulting you as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that would change a lot.
Yeah. I wonder what the Saudi men and women relationship would look like if that was in place, though.
Yeah, there's some guy in Saudi Arabia watching us right now. Honey, no, nothing. Turn it down.
He said natural rights of man. Get back in the kitchen.
Yeah, you're still an evil woman that fucks it up.
Put your veil on and make me a sandwich.
Where's that?
Cool. I don't know, is there anything, we probably didn't rant forever, but is there any other pertinent things we need to cover?
Do you have any more websites you want to plug?
Seriously, guys, come to me.
I'm Creative Chef. Pink Pistol. Daily Stock File. I think one thing that we are eventually going to do is have at least some type of one-page website with a list of topics and the dates that we'll be talking about them. And I think you said at the beginning, but like the goal is that while we're having this conversation, like because you know the date and the topic, like you can form your own kind of thing. And what we'd like to do is because we know that not everybody is going to be able to watch an hour and a half or whatever it is of every single thing. Like you guys have a conversation. If you want to film it, record it, do whatever, that's totally fine. But at some point, create like a 3 to 5 minute video and maybe a little brief write-up of like, look, this is what we talked about. This is the highlights, and here are our proposed solutions to the topic. And then we can actually form a database that is massive, and it's all these people. And I guarantee you that everybody's going to be coming up with the same ideas. And I guarantee you that everything revolves around, like, I need more freedom in my own life. Like, I demand it. If I had the ability to do the things that I wanted to, I wouldn't hurt anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that we're going to find a lot of the solutions are the exact same, and they're the exact opposite of what the government's trying to do in any part of the world. And I think it'll be really eye-opening and amazing to see this kind of stuff. But if we could create a database, and then at some point, like, I know this is getting way, way, way ahead of myself,
Step 12.
but yeah, step 30,000. But like, you know how there's TED, like TED Talks. Those are great, but it's for rich white people who believe in a technological utopia. There's a lot of smart people, for sure, but whatever. And I think this is a chance to let the normal people who aren't super rich or develop the next Google or whatever it is to go like, hey, look, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Like, just give me the ability to be a human being. And so if we could develop those kinds of things and maybe start bringing people together with like some really amazing, there are brilliant people out there that you'll never meet, you'll never hear of, you'll never see ever. But this might be a chance to expose some of that.
You just met 5 of them.
Well, I mean, at least 2 of us.
Gosh, you're so ridiculous.
I think that's a cool idea, you know.
Most guys would have left by now.
Most girls are left by now.
Join them. This is just their normal love band before they go make out.
Whoa!
I think the
Come
TED
watch my
idea
show.
the TED idea is kind of cool. How I think that if you were to give anybody the opportunity to do a TED talk, you know,
Yeah.
to say, hey, we have this venue that's all about, you know, positivity, creation, whatever. What would you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Almost any human being, like if you give them long enough to put something together, whatever, they have something that they want to put into the world. But we don't expect that from people, and people don't have that. Like, we'll watch it on TED, but we don't think about, well, how could I do that? Like, what's my message to the world, or you know what I mean? So that'd be kind of just a cool thing about this website too, to say like, hey, you're a regular dude, make your own seeds, speak your voice, and maybe just kind of encourage people to like, you can't be on that level, and you can't be somebody who puts things out into the world.
Yeah.
Because we're just 5 people in the living room starting it, so I mean, what else could 12 more of these 5 people in living room groups make? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if anybody is actually watching this between now and next weekend, maybe, you know, send us an email and tell us what subjects that you would like to talk about to put on the list, or if you film one of these, send us a link, and we'll hopefully see you next weekend. And
We had 2 people watching us live for almost an hour.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
So, whatever.
It's the NSA.
Viral! Yeah, it's like...
As soon as we said something about people watching, we left.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll just one now. Hey, one viewer.
so it's not just us, huh?
No.
No.
Oh,
There's a counter.
I thought that was just a joke about the 2 machines being on there.
No.
No.
Sweet.
That's what he said. I was like, hey, no, we have 2 people watching. And he goes, no, that's us. And I was like, no, it's not, because it's been counting up and down.
Yeah. So now it's... Yeah.
Sweet.
I will tell you the NSA now is working on a program, though, where it has its guys have profiles and follow people.
No, of
Oh,
course.
of course.
Just so you know.
Yeah, that's good.
They probably
Hopefully
have
it's not
that.
you.
Yeah. All right, well...
See you next week. The Seeds.